Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the Laredo Webb County Metropolitan Planning Organization, otherwise known as the MPO. And today is November the 16th, 2022, and it's 2:30 some? It's at 2:32 p.m. We apologize for being late. A previous city council meeting extended over, and this is the reason why we're coming to you late. But it's at 2:32. We're meeting here at City Council Chambers, 1110 Houston Street, Laredo, Texas. And you can join us or view us at laredotx.swagat.com/forward-live or at Spectrum TV channel 1300. Roll call, please. Mr. Mendu.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Briones will help us call roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. Mayor Pete Sines.
Present.
Judge Tano Tijerina.
I'm sorry,
Present. Yes.
He was occupied.
Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez.
Present.
Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilmember Dr. Marte Martinez. Commissioner John Galo.
Present.
Councilmember Vanessa Perez. Present. Mr. Epigmenio Epi Gonzalez.
Present.
For the record, you do have a quorum, Mayor.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Moving on to citizens' comments. I don't see any cards here. Anyone wishing to speak on any issue? Please come forward. I don't see anyone approaching the lectern, so I'm assuming that there's no one with public comment.
Mayor, before you start with your regular agenda, if I may,
Sir.
I'd like to first congratulate Epi Gonzalez for being our new engineer here at TxDOT, and welcome to the MPO board. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and hopefully we could all work together. So welcome and congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, and of course we extend the same courtesy and the same compliment as well. Thank you, Epi.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm on my way out here and your way in, but there's a lot of stuff going on, as you know, based on your experience as well. Thank you. Let's see, moving on, I think I was asked to, you want to give your director's report first?
Yes, please, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, shall we bring up that item then?
Yes, it's item 6.
Yeah, we can bring it up.
6, together, director's comments. Is there a motion that we bring up item 6?
Which item is it? Which one did you want?
Motion, seconded. Second that. Moving forward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, not seen, not heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So we're 6A, Policy Committee Membership Update.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Sines. As Judge Tijerina mentioned, we have a new district engineer, so we wanted to formally welcome Mr. Epi Gonzalez, PE, to Laredo and to the Policy Committee. So welcome very much. As per our bylaws, the district engineer does serve on the MPO Policy Committee. Of course, we know there's been changes at TxDOT, so we would also like to thank Mr. David Salazar for his contributions to this committee, to the community, and his leadership, as well as Mr. Humberto Tito Gonzalez, who also took on a new role with TxDOT as well. So we want to thank him as well for his leadership on this committee. With that being said, with Mr. Gonzalez's departure, Mr. Tito Gonzalez's departure, there's a vacancy as of November 9th on the MPO Policy Committee. So I wanted to make sure that was noted, since we will have an item in the agenda to discuss that vacancy as well. And I'll go ahead, if I may go through the other items right away on my report. So just an update on the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Call for projects that will be closing on November 18, 2022. The next steps will include the MPO staff review of received applications for completion and eligibility. And then right away on the upcoming regular scheduled meetings, we'll have our active transportation meeting November 30th, 2022. Our technical meeting will be December 13th, 2022. And we should be back here for a policy meeting on December 21st, 2022 for the last one of this calendar year. So that's it for my updates. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions for?
Mayor, I wanted to see if I can move another item up.
Sure.
I'm going to have to step
Which
on.
one?
Item letter E.
C.
Letter E. I think it's.
And what number?
Is it E?
Yes.
Okay, there's a motion, and seconded by whom?
Aye.
By Judge Tijerina. Discussion? None heard, none seen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None seen, none heard. Motion carries. Item E is on the table. It's a discussion with possible action on the allocation and programming of Category 7 funds for the preliminary engineering and right-of-way phase in the amount of $1 million for segments 1, 2, and 3 of the Laredo Outer Loop and any other matters incident thereto. Okay. And so,
Yeah,
I'm
so
assuming
this was an item that was brought up at the last meeting. It had been tabled to the next month. There's another item that had been tabled to a workshop. We haven't been able to have that workshop, so we're bringing this item back for your consideration. All this is asking is to allocate and program CAT $7 in the amount of $1 million for a preliminary engineering and right-of-way phase for the segments 1, 2, and 3 of the Laredo Outer Loop, which is that southern loop extension. So that's what was being asked. I know at one point there had been a strategy proposed by Webb County, but again, I'll mention this item, whether the county still is willing to participate or not. This item is for policy committee to consider whether you allocate $1 million of Category 7 dollars to that project.
okay, and I think at the last meeting too, we had a thorough discussion, I think, or at least we intended to. And I know Dr. Martinez, and I know the county was asking to contribute, I guess, right, $1 million per year. But of course, it's $2 million per year.
$2 million per year for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and it's not here, but I don't know if that's implied. I guess not, since it's not here then. So it's, and there was a question raised by Dr. Martinez, not here, but I'll, I guess, summarize if I can, as accurate as I can. His thought was that we should focus more on the north, or at least I'd try to finish up more on the north area and carry more of a priority from the standpoint of the community. And I also value the south as well. But my concern, when I expressed my concern, was, and it's connected to that 4-5. I made no side issue of it. It's really a concern that the city has as to how we're going to participate. And since the county was willing to invest monies in the south leg, more or less, of that, I guess, outer loop, I call it really just the extension of the Cuatro Vientos southern leg that connects to 83, and then obviously we want that to connect to the 4-5 location. We really had no. Although we've discussed it, Judge, informally as to how the city and the county and the landowner would participate, but we don't have a formal agreement. And I was hoping that before we start looking at all these projects to the south that will connect to the 4-5, and we wanted to connect to the 4-5, that to see where the city fits in. And I know Rosario, no, she's not here. Yeah, she's been reaching out to the landowner, and I think they've made the contact, and I think they've scheduled or about to schedule something the latter part of this month, to hear from him. But I would like to hear from you or the county, Judge, to see what thoughts, ideas. All along my impression is through the years that we were going to partner up and just make this a partnership. The county, the city, and the landowner. But I just don't know where we stand now, and this is the reason why I thought that maybe this would be a good opportunity to openly hear from the county and see if your thoughts are still the same. That the city should also be very much involved in that project. I know it, and I've been very public and open too that we need that 4-5. The community as a whole needs 4-5, but also the city is very much part of that bridge system that we have, and we depend heavily on bridge revenue. I understand the county also wants to participate, and this is where I think we need to sit down and just figure something amicably and not revert to history and history in the past, as you know. And this is something, when you came on board and I came on board, we basically told ourselves that that history wouldn't repeat, and I don't think it will repeat. But we need affirmation. At least I would like to hear, and I think even our council members here, our city management, will need affirmation from you all that we're still on. All of us are on board, and it's a matter of working things out. But that's basically the reasoning for holding it up. I'm also told now, is Ria here? Yeah, Ria. That apparently TxDOT, and I know it may bring another item, but it also impacts on this, that apparently the Charles Ruthinger, and I'm looking at TxDOT here, that apparently now there's an over expenditure or
Shortfall.
huge shortfall. I'm told it's huge.
Chair, yeah, we have a presentation for that item, the chart.
Yeah, Ruthinger, and that should also play into priorities. Again, for the record, obviously we're for the South. I've been advocating with you all, with the county, for the South, but it's got to be orderly and it's got to find its place where it all fits in. If we can't finish the Charles Ruthinger at this point, then how is that going to impact with this item? And maybe we should bring that item too, because it does impact this potential item.
Mayor, will you give us
Yeah, sure.
a chance?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me a chance. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
With all due respect, first of all, I don't understand where the bridge comes out in this particular segment one. If you have a problem with the bridge, Mayor, situation with the 405 bridge, I totally understand. So let's just take segment one out of the way. That way everybody understands. If you're worried about the segment one because of the 405 bridge, then let's
Which is the portion from.
which is a portion from 83 to the river. If that's the case, let's take away segment one. We'll just do item 2 and 3. With that said, you've said a lot of things, and I'm going to try to answer as much as you can because I think it's important for the public to know. You've made a couple of comments stating that we have not given you an opportunity to come in on this project. Mayor, with all due respect, it's a slap in the face to me and none to you, but I just want to point this out to the public. You had a couple of agenda items at City Council pushing the county away from our own project. You were the swinging vote, if I want to remind you and the public, to go and push Webb County completely out of the way for the city to do that. What people don't know, and I'm going to make this public now, is that the day before, you and I and Robert Eads and Mr. Lalo Uribe stayed there in my office, and I appreciate you going to my office. For 2.5 hours, we met. The first question that I told you was, I just want 1% of the revenue. And you laughed at me. And Robert Eads laughed at me and said, why should we give you anything? That was what happened at that meeting. And in all good faith, that is something that you've been using quite a bit to the county, is we're trying to work in good faith. There is no good faith with what happened at that meeting. With 1% of revenue, that's all the county was asking. And I threw it out there because I wanted to show that it wasn't in good faith that we're working. And I will tell you this, regardless of you're here or not, Mayor, the next council mayor, the next council meeting, I will do everything I can, and I'm saying this publicly, but I'm tired of the way the city of Laredo is positioning itself, and starting with you, Mayor, because you are the leader, or were. It's very disturbing to me that you bring up things in public, and I've been with my mouth shut for the longest time, because in all good faith, it's not Webb County or the city of Laredo that's losing. It's all of us that are losing. Here you and Dr. Marta Martinez put down a beautiful situation where the money is coming from Webb County for $2 million a year, allocating $20 million or $10 million. It's 2 times, it's almost 20 times one. So for that $20 million, we could be receiving $200 million, but we turned it out, and I'm glad you pointed it out. The fact that the reason why you did it was because of the 405 bridge and not for any other else. But you know who's hurting? The people in the South. Your people that you live over there in the South, you're hurting them. You keep talking about the North. For the last 8 years that I've been here, 7 of those years we've allocated all the monies up north. And where has that gotten us? We're doing everything we can. But as a county judge, I'm not looking at just one region. I have to look at all of them. And when we're putting monies, we have never said no to any monies And in a Charruthinger, we have never set any monies against Mines Road. We've always allocated. We've been a partner in this. But when all of a sudden we start putting our heels down on the ground because of pride and arrogance, that's what I have a problem with. Because of people, I've been very quiet publicly, and I've had a lot of people wanting to give me an open opportunity, an open mic to say what I have to say. Unfortunately, Mayor, I just feel that it has been bad business on practice on your part and some of the other city councils. I'm not talking about some of the ones that are sitting here, members that have put us in a situation that all of a sudden, and even today, I'm willing to say that I want to work with the city because Del Rio just got a bridge. The last 10 years, we've got about 7 bridges in Texas, and not one of them is in Laredo. Again, I'm going to say it. We shouldn't be worried about the 4-5 bridge. We should be worried about the 5, 6, 7, and 8. And Mayor, with all due respect, and I'm saying this con puro corazón, Mayor, it's very disappointing to hear you spit out certain things, but in the background, people don't understand what's going on. And it's very ill-mannered on your part towards not only me, but to Webb County. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. If you have a problem with the 4-5 bridge, by all means, let's take segment 1 away and just do 2 and 3, because this is for the outer loop and mostly for the connection of to finish off the loop. Because right now, you're not just hurting the people in the north, you're hurting the people in the south as well.
Yeah, let me just contribute a little more to that, just so we can be clear. Yes, we had that meeting. Let me go back to that meeting with Robert Deeds and myself.
Mayor,
Mayor, that's but it's just about the agenda.
It's unfair.
No, but it's unfair that you started. I'm just trying to finish off.
But let me explain.
Hey, Mayor, if I may, please.
Yes, sir.
You know, you all have 9 mines over here. We're going to have a lot of new blood. All right. We got 5 on our side. We just need to meet. That's all there is to it. These agenda items, I mean, this MPO is here to promote Webb County, the city of Laredo, which is a majority of Webb County. And that's all we're here. I sat in this very seat. I know exactly all the issues that you all are looking at. I sat here, and I've expressed them to the judge, and we've talked quite a bit about it. So I think whatever we can negotiate will be a fair and equitable position. Absolutely. Because I'm an advocate for the city of Laredo. We all live it, well, I say all of us, but the majority of us live within the city limits. We understand what the bridge revenue does. We understand about the bond covenants. We understand all those things. So, Mayor, whoever's going to be there, I think we just need to have a joint meetings, sit there and talk about it. We need TxDOT's input. We need, public input, and sit there and hash something out. And we will with the new council and the new commission. And I think let's just leave it there.
Okay, well, okay. No, and I agree, and thank you for
Because I was not part of any of those meetings. I don't know what was said. I don't want to know what any more was said. I just want to know what we can do.
Yeah, let me just express this, and I appreciate that. Yeah, the fact that I now hear, Judge, that you continue to.
I've never changed my tune, though.
Okay, no, wonderful. And things went silent there for a long time, and it kind of worried management as well. Thank you for those words too, Commissioner Galo. You know both bodies, the city, because you were here, and of course now you're with the county, and you know the needs that we have as a city, and I appreciate that very much. Let me just say this: council, for whatever it's worth, we're not necessarily convinced. It took that meeting that I know it upset you, it upset me in a way, but we had to get the location. That meeting where we approved the location was huge, because there was uncertainty with the industry, with even council, even management. And then the second go around, if you noticed, I was the deciding vote, to participate, with council that the 4-5 was going to be there. So anyway, be that as it may, I mean, I'm a mayor for the entire community as well. I truly care for the South, and I think that whoever follows my trajectory and my history knows that I want to do well, everywhere, especially in the South. So with that in mind, let's move forward. I think it's positive. We want to keep it positive, and I appreciate that very much, Judge, and commissioners as well. And I feel you feel the same way, Commissioner Gonzalez. Okay, great. And And from our standpoint, the city's ready, and I think Rosario's been waiting for these comments really to move forward and get this MOU or whatever agreement that we need to work out with the county and the landowner. So back to the issue at hand. So my question is, and again, thinking of the overall monies that come through the MPO and the needs that we have. So I don't know. Yeah, let me motion for because it has a lot of bearing. If we're going to be lacking money, ideally, if we had the money now, I would say yes. Let's move forward. Based on what you said, or based on what you said, I would say do the 3 legs. Because that's I wanted to hear from you all a reaffirmation, a commitment publicly, which we hadn't done, frankly. So anyway, I have no problem with the 3 legs based on what I've heard, and we're relying on those statements. I in the city, and we're all relying on the statements made by you all. But again, do we have enough money? And that's a question, and it's open for debate.
We could just do us a favor and bring our consultant, Mr. Anthony Garza. Will you explain just a little bit real quick on this particular item? Because I know Mr. Commissioner Gonzalez has to go as well, and as well as I do. No, good, sir. Thank you.
For the record, Anthony Garza, assisting Webb County with planning. So the original proposal, like we discussed, was legs 1, 2, and 3, and that was an effort to try and get the county to participate with TxDOT and develop projects to try and get more money to the region. Like the judge said, segment 1 kind of threw everybody for made everybody uncomfortable. And I'll give the judge 100% of the credit. He said, well, why don't we just get rid of segment 1 and do 2 and 3 and extend the 20 to 83? And that takes the bridge controversy off of the table and makes things easy. So that's in a box over here. And that would mean that basically the original proposal was about 35 million, and now that cuts it down to 22 in Cat 7. And then separately, the discussion you're talking about, the Achar Ruthinger, I mean, I worked on the original estimate for that project, and I understood every caveat that TxDOT put into a ton of work of what they're going to present. And it's all good, and it's all has lots of things and lots of good reasons of why it is what it is. And they provided a ton of good options to you guys. And I think that there are also options of where the money can come from. There's only one kind of money for non-TxDOT roads, which is Cat 7, and I think I've heard that Achar Ruthinger is going to be a TxDOT road. I think there's options. What I think is that I know that there are still some steps that are going to happen on Achar Ruthinger, and there are steps that need to happen on that loop, and I think that working together, like you say, I don't think one is going to hurt the other, and I don't think that a today decision is in the critical path of either decision. But the understanding that the county is conceding on getting rid of segment 1 if it's an issue. Let us work on 2 and 3, and this item can go, and that's $1 million. It's not going to stop Achar. And then the next meeting we'll probably be deciding, have a better idea of what's going on with the rest of the funding, because I'll probably step on toes, but there are options for a road that is going to be on system, and if it delays Achar's letting 1 month and it brings $40 million into this community that wouldn't otherwise be here, that's on TxDOT's side, and that's for them to make. But I think that there's tons of opportunity here to expand how much money we get. And I see the situation with Achar, instead of being reactive and using everything you have in one kitty to solve the problem, I think that being a little bit proactive and makes both things able to happen without hurting each other. And what that does is it delivers 2 projects instead of 1 project. And then whatever's left over delivers another project. Did I miss anything, Judge?
Let's see, yeah, could I ask, do you concur with that?
So there's, I guess the additional or the alternate funding that Mr. Garza is talking about is category 12. Is that a fair statement? Mm-hmm. So that is something that we can certainly pursue. However, there's also the risk that this category 12 funding could be allocated for outer years, which means we'd have to delay the project further out, right?
Delay the Achar Ruthinger project?
Correct. So again, that's certainly an option. I think we should pursue that option as well. I think we're at a point where we need to make a decision. We have based on the presentation that we're going to make here, I guess in a few minutes, we have to provide guidance to our consultant, which alternative we're gonna pursue here shortly, and our goal is still to meet that August letting, right? I know Mr. Gassa may think that's a bit ambitious, but I mean that's what we're trying, that's still what we're shooting for. So, if we potentially push the project out, to be able to consider additional funding, that may be something that we'll continue to investigate and pursue as well.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
Mr. Gonzalez, and pleasure to meeting you. I know it's our first meeting. For the past year or a couple of years we've been up here, every meeting we have an update for our Char Ruthinger. Every meeting. And every meeting we would ask, do we have the funding? And that was never an issue. We always had the funding.
I remember that.
We would always ask every meeting, and I know it's your first meeting here, right? But by all means, I'm going to put you in the spot because you still represent TxDOT. Maybe about a month ago, when we were talking about Cat 7 funds for Vallecillos, we were still asking, but do we have enough for a Char Ruthinger? Yes, we do. We might need one more year of Cat 7 funds. Might, probably not. Those were the answers.
And I remember that.
Right? And then we said, okay, so we're going to do Vallecillos, and then we're going to be able to do Lomas. But do we have enough to finish off a Char Ruthinger? Every time the answer was yes.
That's correct.
So we allocated funding for Vallecillos, for Lomas, and here we are now talking about Cat 7 funds, and now we don't have enough for a Char Ruthinger. How do we go backwards? That's what doesn't make sense to me. A Char Ruthinger was talking about letting since months ago in August. Council member, you kept asking, when can we even let sooner? August, but it's going to be maybe sooner, but August is the latest. And now we don't have monies to start the project or to finish it off?
And I remember there was even a controversy as to whether or not we should put the update on the monthly agenda. I know Mr. Salazar had made a comment that we didn't need to have a monthly update, and we were like, I was adamant that we keep it on here. So this is kind of shocker for all of us that all of a sudden now we're $88 million short.
88?
No, not that much. How much are we short?
With the alternative that TxDOT is going to present, I think the gap was closed around like 40.
But the original schematic,
Can we,
88.
we're talking about the Char Ruthinger, let me bring it up so we can at least have a pretty good idea.
I think we just need a,
Well, to answer, at least from my standpoint, to help you with this, Judge, I think I need to hear from the Char
it's
Ruthinger.
just $1 million. That's what it is. It's $1 million that we're asking from Category 7 funds with this.
Okay, well, that's your, okay, that's fine. And Council Member.
I'm gonna do this.
Pettis,
Yeah.
you know,
We don't have a motion.
can we hear from you, it's your district? And I would like to hear from Ria also, if you don't mind, Ria.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move a motion to accept this item E as written.
Second.
Okay, there's a
2 and
motion.
3, or all 1, 2, and 3?
All 1, 2, and 3.
And seconded by Commissioner Galen. And let's see, Ms. Pettis, do you have any
I mean,
comments?
if y'all want a discussion, like, we're here.
Hold on. I think Ms. Pettis was going to speak.
Go ahead.
Well, Mayor, I mean, I just Char Ruthinger Road, like it has been a disturbing for me, and especially since we, did the whole Vallecillo, battle that we were trying to get that funded, and we need these relief routes, but I don't know necessarily how that relates to this
I
particular.
mean, if anything, we should pull the
motion.
money from Vallecillo then, if they're short. It doesn't make sense, because we awarded it on the grounds that we had enough.
Right.
But I've been here since, 10 years now, fighting for Char Ruthinger the whole way. And, it's been delayed, and, we had things happen, but
They're out of our control.
yeah.
And Mayor, just to add to that, the concern that I have with pulling funding from another Mines Road relief route is that, it's actually a matter of life or death out there in Mines Road. I mean, people get stuck in traffic, children on school buses, ambulances. I get videos constantly from residents that have like ambulances that can't move. So I understand that we have a need to be more efficient with the way that traffic flows throughout the community, but I can't get past the danger that I see in Mines Road. And so when we're talking about allocating monies, I'm not comfortable with taking monies away
No,
from those relief routes, only because
was
we
not
have
in-
no, we're
It was
like
in
lost.
jest. It was in jest, but I just want to tell you, Vanessa, when the ISU was first proposed, it wasn't lining up with La Bota. And I went to Rowley and I spoke to him. I said, this makes no sense, let's line it up with the light. These people can cross straight over. Oh, I don't think we can do that. And then working with them, we were able to get that alignment changed. So all this is good. I mean, if there's a problem with the Char-Ruthinger, maybe we need to phase it, phase it. At least up to, Carrier Drive or something, where you get them, so you can exit that traffic from 9th Road to Carrier to 35, if we're not going to get to the overpass at the 15-mile marker or whatever it is first. But, but this is, I think this is wholly on TxDOT, because again, we've had this conversation month after month after month, and I'm sure there's some.
If I may add some things, and I think Mr. Rodriguez from TxDOT wanted to mention something too. So, right now I had it up on the projector, the Cat 7 funding that's still available through 2032. I don't know if we can zoom in a little bit on that, but the total we have available would be $53.9 million in Cat 7 dollars. Everything else has been programmed, as you see there. So we have a Char roadway with the original cost estimate programmed. World Trade Bridge expansion, $1 million in FY24. The Lomas del Sur project, we allocated $7 million to that for FY25. And Vallecillo Road, 26-27, $16.5 million. So I just want to make you all aware of that. And then also, I know we're talking about Cat $7 and funding these projects. That is the money that MPO can allocate to projects, but remember, it's not the only funding source. So just keep that in mind, right? There's other funding sources as well. I know Mr. Gonzalez had mentioned, right, there's other categories of funding that we could potentially look at, but of course it depends whether those are on-system roads or not as well. But I just wanted to make you all aware of that.
We're just trying not to delay this.
Well, we haven't looked at the numbers because what I saw was that the Dannenbaum schematics did not include a lot of essential components, and the $50 to $60 million that we had allocated were insufficient even for TxDOT standards for construction. So just to be able to modify the project to conform to TxDOT needs and keep it the way it was originally intended went down now to $140 million. So now we're going to have to talk about pulling it back and scaling it down or phasing it out, which is going to, it's going to be more in line.
It was a 5-lane section going down the middle. It was not the frontage road.
Well, the price that Dannenbaum gave was about 50-60 million, and what
It
I'm
was
hearing,
10 years ago.
right? But it was missing a lot of things.
If we listen to the presentation, it's going to answer a lot of the questions you'll have.
You have a
Sorry, they're
presentation?
Phase by phase.
Sure.
Yeah, we have a presentation.
But there's a motion in a second.
There's a motion in a second.
We have a presentation
Petition for the other one.
for the Char route.
Yeah, but they don't want to
Everything, you're talking about
bring up, or
$1
amend the
million
motion to bring
out
up.
of,
That's it.
you know, 140.
The item that we're talking, and there's a motion in a second, is unrelated to a Char-Ruthinger. What I mentioned was it's frustrating that here we are pushing a Char-Ruthinger again with, we need funding. But that's unrelated to item E. And item E, we have a motion in a second. The difference is it going to affect the Char-Ruthinger or not? But there is other funding sources that it shouldn't affect a Char-Ruthinger at all. Is $1 million here. That we're talking about Category 7 funds, which are MPO monies, to be able to allocate for this very much important project that we have in the South. That's the motion right now.
Let me ask. Okay. So this $1 million, if it's allocated, how long does it take to be spent?
It's going to be a while. So this, I'll remind you all, TxDOT is a project sponsor for the outer loop, right? So that's one thing. If you all take action to program those $1 million, that's just an action programming the Category 7 funding in a specific year for that phase. Now we need to find the rest of the money for the right-of-way and preliminary engineering. There's a proposal by the county to provide that funding, right? So it's going to come from the county.
I'm asking about how long, if the $1 million are allocated, when would they be spent?
It depends on the cost estimate for the right-of-way and engineering phase, which is what you all had mentioned was $10 million.
How quickly?
How quickly? As soon as all of the funding is available for that phase.
So they won't be spent. And if we need to reallocate them back, we can reallocate them back then.
Are you willing to amend that?
He's about to answer Mr. Johnson.
Just one really good answer to that question. This This, Anthony got second for the record. That $1 million is merely a placeholder inside the tip to allow for planning and development authority with TxDOT. The county has committed in writing to both the MPO and to TxDOT to pay 100% of the preliminary engineering in writing with local dollars. However, in order to get a federal nexus on the project, get an advanced funding agreement, and actually work on the project, this money serves as a placeholder and technically will not, in real life, be used for anything but construction dollars in the future. It's just basically a commitment that you need to follow the federal process.
Good system.
To get into the system.
So that we can start the
And,
process.
you know, of course, moving forward, after we answer a bunch of other
That
questions.
should have been said earlier.
Well,
Could have avoided some of this discussion. But anyway, it's good.
no, that's it. And, you know, there's just options and it changes and there's quarterly updates to this stuff and it's a living thing. So we just move forward and get more information and keep going.
Okay, so in essence, it's basically just to enter the system, the process, which the county, I think, through you all's commitments, direct commitments, you're all willing to put up that money eventually. Okay. But that helps me, to be honest with you. Anyone else for discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None seen, none heard. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for those statements as well, too, on the 4-5. I appreciate it, Judge.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Okay, moving on to.
Well, Mayor, are we going to talk about the Char Ruthinger thing?
I think they can do
Yeah,
that.
do you want to bring it up?
Let's bring it up.
Yes.
Yeah, they push
Motion
me
to bring up item D.
Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Take care. There's a motion to bring up item B, is it? D, or D, seconded? Yeah, I would second that. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None heard, none seen, motion carries. Item D is on the table.
But Mayor, just if I can just comment, because I know we did discuss this a little bit Monday, and you know, I'm concerned that we may have to lessen the project or make it less of what it was supposed to be, just so that we can afford it. But I'm worried that we're going to end up with the same situation that we have, where, you know, Mines Road was never, and now we're having to widen it. And then as we're widening it, all that construction causes more issues. I mean, we had a death out there not too long ago because of they had blocked off a route. I mean, literally there's nowhere that these trucks can go other than to just be parked on Mines Road. And you have kids that go to United High School from La Bota, Green Ranch, you know, those neighborhoods. They have to get on the loop to get out, and they're stuck on a school bus. The overpasses, they get you there faster. You get stuck on them because the only way out is like all the way close to the bridge, and so you're stuck on these overpasses that are supposed to be, you know, shortcuts or to get there faster, and you end up trapped, and there's no way out, and people are, you know, having emergencies, and the ambulances can't get to them, and this was like one of our earliest relief possibilities, aside from, you know, the hope that Vallecillo could come online at some point. But, you know, I'm just very concerned that Char Ruthinger is, you know, going to be not up to standards, and we're already so behind on the need. And we have so much land that's not developed, ETJ, county land. People are coming every day with annexation requests. They want to build warehouses. They want to build houses. And how do we accommodate the growth if we don't have the infrastructure? It's like a very dire situation that I can attest to. So it very much concerns me that we would talk about lessening the project to be able to afford it.
Well, I haven't heard anything about lessening the project because I won't accept that. Yeah, I'm with you, but right now it is only frontage roads. So we understand that.
But also, too, I think for it to be effective, and I heard this from Ria, and I'm putting you on the spot, but we've had conversations, Ria, that we also need that overpass to connect to 1472. You know, without that overpass, it's just going to hinder, you know, traffic some more. But yeah, let's hear from her. Maybe she'll cover that. Yeah, do you cover the overpass too?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Anna Duncan with TxDOT for the record. So I'm going to present you a little bit of what has happened, where we are now and where we need to be. And so just briefly, to go over these items. The project, as we know it, is from FM 1472 all the way to I-35, and the proposed project is for a 4-lane divided highway. We have 3 bridges at 3 major water crossings, Cuervo Creek, Sombrerito Creek, and Tributary. And there are 3 proposed intersections as well, about a mile and a half to 2 miles apart. One of those is, of course, Beltway. From the utility side, we haven't gone in depth to that. That'll be part of what we work on with the city of Laredo. But there are 3 major high voltage power lines that are crossing, and several other utilities in the area. We'll be working on a full PS&E to include the grading, paving, bridge, drainage, traffic control, signing, pavement markings, and miscellaneous details.
And I just stop you because you said it was for a 4-lane freeway.
4-lane divided highway.
I mean, 4-lane divided highway.
Yes.
But from what the reports we've had here, where they're only going to build the frontage roads,
That's what they are. That's what they're identified. And you'll hear the explanation as to why we are, that's the nomenclature that we're using.
okay, so
Give me a few minutes.
okay.
Okay.
My ADD won't let me do it, but okay.
I'm gonna remember it. I'm gonna remember it. Just to go through just to go through the history, it was in 2016, 2017 when we had those AFAs executed with the county, with the city to begin, both the Achar and the Ruthinger phases. And it was in August of 2018 that Dannenbaum was contracted to begin work on the county portion of the Ruthinger. That contract expired at the end of December of 19, and it was in June 2020 that we received that wonderful $51.7 million estimate that we talked about. Later that year in October is when we started having those discussions about TxDOT possibly taking over the development of the PS&E for the project. In April of 2021 is when we had that first AFA amended so that we can begin doing the PS&E under TxDOT. In May, we did the AFA to amend the environmental with Webb County. So now, at this point, TxDOT does have the authority under AFA to do that work. Come in May, we were requesting all the additional information that Webb had and City had to begin moving forward on the project. And in July of 2021, we began receiving all the CAD files that were available had been provided to us. So all that information was relayed over to our consultant. We had a consultant in mind that we would be working with. They began reviewing that information, and there were items that were missing. The draft drainage, it was a draft drainage report that was provided, and there was unincorporated comments to that report, so we didn't have a final one. The ITS, that's Intelligent Transportation System, stuff is like your cameras, your DMS signs, the lighting, and all that was not included. There was also survey control sheets were not provided, and a survey control was not established on the project. We continued working, excuse me. We received approval to begin contracting and negotiations in October of 21, and December of 21 is when we finally contracted with NTEC. And okay, so we had our contract executed in December of 2021. So come January, that's when we had our kickoff meeting. So that's just January of this year that we had our kickoff meeting with our consultant to begin working on the project fully. So the work that we've been doing between January and August has been coordinating the right-of-way and developing that proposed right-of-way footprint, because now we are working to the design standards of having an on-system roadway. This is our goal ultimately. We review the drainage and the bridge structures, and we continue performing surveying, geotechnical boring, and developing pavement design. A lot of the issues that we were having was getting right of entry into some of these properties, and also just in general, trying to get that access to the properties was one of the big things. But we did work with the city, we did work with the county to try to, since you all had already been working with them to get that information. Come June 2022, we had the preliminary right-of-way footprint. And this is because, like we said, we updated to those design standards that we needed. And we began sharing this information with the city of Laredo. At this point, we were still looking at possibly doing inline detention versus detention ponds. Now, one of the things, I don't know that you all were aware, the original schematic from Danimum did propose a lot of detention ponds throughout the corridor, and I don't know if that was ever made truly clear on the project itself.
To us or to the landowners?
To either, really. I don't know if you all were aware that there were detention ponds being called out for on the project. But we continue moving forward. In August of 22, we had both the preliminary interim and ultimate schematic. And by interim and ultimate, we talked about having just frontage roads built. And then on the ultimate was where we would have the main lanes in the middle that would tie into the main overpass over 35. We continued reviewing. We submitted this through our district review as well as to division review. And we had, in September, the final comments on that. We introduced a U-turn at Mines Road, which we'll show you here shortly. That was something that was kind of overlooked, but would help to move the traffic from one side going westbound to be able to continue going back eastbound. We also determined, based on review comments and additional coordination with our drainage team and division, that we were not going to need those detention ponds. So we were able to work within the right-of-way footprint that we had, and we're not going to require that additional right-of-way from the property owners. So come October 3rd, that's when we received our final schematic for the ultimate project. We received our final schematic and the estimate from NTEC. So we're still targeting an August 2023 letting date at this point.
Okay, so what are we actually building? I can't hold it that long.
This is where we were. Now this is where we are now. Dannenbaum's estimate was at 51.8 million, and that was in June of 2020. The estimate had not changed since March of 2020. And if we look at the files and the records that they had, they were actually using bid prices from October of 2019. So what you were looking at...
They were still involved in 2020?
I'm sorry?
They were still involved in 2020?
No, but when it was submitted by Webb County, the estimate was dated 2020. That's what the estimate was dated. And yes, from what I understood, they were still working with you at that point.
They never worked for us. They worked for what's it, the HR people, whatever, the trust.
The trustee.
No, they for the Ruthinger portion, they were working with the county, and they had developed. Yes, and they had developed a full estimate for the project as well.
Commissioner, I remember when I came on, we had to resolve some issue to like kind of get them completely out of the way. That was summertime in 2020.
Because remember, Ruthinger portion was not part of the original plan, and
it was just our chart.
And we said we need to do the complete thing, get the trucks onto the highway
to have the connectivity.
Yeah, and that's why Dannenbaum was given that portion. But I mean, they weren't going to build it. They were just supposed to do preliminary design and stuff.
Well, it was for the purpose of environmental, that we needed to have environmental and have the continuity
yes.
from Mines Road to 35. If not, you would not be able to complete the project. So yeah, so that is what we had, the estimate of 51.8 million based on October 2019 dollars. So in order for us to compare to our estimate, we wanted to bring those prices up to 2022 standards. So what we did is we did not change anything with respect to the design that Dannenbaum had, items, quantities, or anything like that. All we did was look at their bid prices and bring them up to current standards. So that 51.2 is actually equivalent to a $90.4 million project today, if you were to build it exactly the way those designs were.
Well, so it's a 90% increase?
But here's the but, right? The design did not meet what we would need to be able to be on system. So when we had our schematic prepared and updated with all the things we talked about, it comes out to 140.3 million. That is because we needed to increase those bridge lengths. That's 6 locations of bridges. We also added the scope of having traffic signals at the 2 sides of Beltway and also at Mines Road. We added continuous lighting. We added the ITS throughout the corridor. So if we were to build that ultimate project of the frontage roads with everything that's needed, that is the project that would cost you $140 million for an August 2023 letting.
In August, $23.
August 2023 letting, that's when we're moving.
$88 million short.
Okay. So what we did is let's compare to see where exactly did this increase come from, because that's probably one thing that you want to know. So we started looking at pavement items. Well, the pavement itself was different between the Dannenbaum schematic and ours.
I don't think we need to go through that, do we?
Well, if you
It
want
is
to.
what it is, right? It's $140 million. We know we need money. Let's find the money, right? So,
Well, I'll just go briefly. We looked at the pavement because we needed to have a pavement structure that would withstand the truck traffic and would meet state standards. So that is what we got to. That was an $18 million difference. We looked at earthwork also. That was a $453,000 difference. And that's because we changed the design speed. And that is where your question came in about why are we calling it frontage roads versus a 4-lane divided highway. If we kept it at frontage roads, that's when we were working on a 55-mile-per-hour design speed. By going to a 4-lane divided highway, we're able to work with that and put it at a 65-mile-per-hour design speed. And that was necessary because we expect the traffic to be on these frontage roads for a very long time, and we want to be able to accommodate the higher
okay, but
speeds.
they still are frontage roads. Because you have a
Eventually,
400-foot
the
right away, and
main roads will be
you're gonna have 4 more lanes in the middle someday.
Eventually,
Okay.
it's there.
They
All right.
will become frontage roads, right?
Yeah, okay.
They're footage roads, you'll be able to access those and everything, just as they were. You just won't have those
Okay.
main lanes that
So-
close for how long?
How do we get past the current crisis of the shortfall? And my question to you all is, can we complete to, if you want to show the map, is it Carrier Drive, which is the road that gets you to, Beltway gets you to 35?
Yes.
Well, aren't they completing Carrier right now to the overpass? Huh? Oh, it doesn't go all the way to the thing? We have a map of the chart, park or whatever it's called.
Okay, and I know that's important, do we have the other end that connects to 1472? For some reason I thought.
So I'm saying, so can we phase it and do 1472 to Beltway?
We have options that we've developed to be able to show you what we can and can't do and what
Last slide.
and that way, that just comes after this. So the comparisons that we were told, we looked at the roadway, we looked at the bridges themselves, we looked at traffic, and that brings us to, that was the difference by just those items, a $49 million difference, and of the Dannenbaum estimate versus our estimate, and those major items are what, was a difference of $43 million. So that's kind of where the bulk of everything was just bringing everything up to standards. So then our options, we're keeping the same geometry that we need for 65 miles per hour. We're keeping the same pavement design that has been approved to be able to withstand the trucks. And we're basing ourselves with a 10% mobilization and a 15% engineering contingency. That's what we're holding across the board. One thing that we looked at was possibly just constructing the project without any continuous lighting or ITS. And that only brought it down to 132. So that was, it's an option, but not probably the favorable one. The second option was to construct the eastbound highway only. So that would be just the eastbound frontage road. It would be a
two-way or one-way?
it's just, well, two-way, but it's just on one side of the roadway. So you'd have, if you look at the drawing at the bottom, we would add a 6-foot segment to the side here on one side so that we can have 2 12-foot lanes and 2 10-foot shoulders. And then we would have a loop, not a loop, it's more of a ramp that connects back to join together.
The way 255 was constructed.
What's that? That one is $77 million.
Right?
I'm sorry?
That's it, right? The way 255 was constructed? As a single, two-way house?
Yeah, so you have that single, and then we would just have this transition to be able to go to 35. That way we would be connecting the way it's intended to connect to 35. Now this pink part with it, which is the frontage road bridges and everything that goes over, is part of the other project that we're constructing, but it'll tie in and everything to this project.
And that's at 35.
That's at 35.
Carrier.
And so this is what it would look like. We would have two-way traffic at the intersections. We would build out the full intersections because we expect to come back in with the other side here on another project soon. And then on the Mines Road side, we would just be connecting and transitioning back to what we have as our interchange there. And so, like I said, that one was...
So I guess the decision here then is...
We're not dead. Still have more options.
Well, I know.
We have better options.
I can't.
We have better options.
Oh, yeah, better option, okay.
Well,
Well, I mean, it's,
This
10
option,
years,
this option is one of the lesser expensive ones, the $77 million. But the thing that we have here is that you're building the roadway only on one side of your right-of-way. So if someone from the other side wants to access, they're going to have to build a driveway that extends from the right-of-way line all the way over here.
yeah.
And ultimately, when we come back with the final, that's going to get
Go back to
taken
my
out.
original thing is build two-way traffic, because I don't think you want, single lane, 65-mile-an-hour
No.
trucks going, you know.
Wait, no, we
No.
do.
So that's not an option.
Okay, hold on, I think she's got.
So she's gonna get back to
surprise
my
for us.
idea right here, yeah.
That is our option.
Yeah.
We will construct both the westbound and the eastbound. One lane in each direction with a 10-foot shoulder and a 4-foot shoulder, which is what's required. We'll construct the eastbound bridges only. So when we get to the bridges, we'll transition to go two-way traffic over the bridge and then come back out to have both directions of traffic. Your bridges, though, will be wider to provide for that two-way traffic. You'll have two 8-foot shoulders and a 4-foot buffer in between. And again, this is only on the east side. And you'll have transitions. We'll be using that same pavement structure for transitions, since those will be temporary. This option is $96 million. This is what that would look like. You would have your one lane in each direction.
Again, that goes all the way to 35?
Yes, this is the full quarter. And so when you come to a bridge, there's 3 bridges we talked about, you would be moving over to just one side. That way we only have to build one of the 2 bridges at each crossing.
But when you get to 35, then what?
It's two-way. You have both lanes, so you're gonna,
I'm just saying that you either go, you can't cross over 35.
not till the other project comes in. So that other project is also scheduled.
Yep. What's the timeline on this?
For this one, this project is scheduled to let in 23.
I know. What the construction timeline?
I believe we're looking at about 2 years.
Is the Rutherford portion hadn't even started to develop yet? What? Do you have a cost estimate for building east and westbound up to Beltway?
East and westbound up to Beltway. No, we didn't stop it at Beltway because there's also not the Beltway connection either.
Well, what's the main road that goes into Unitech and Uniroyal?
Beltway, but it's not constructed either.
Well, it's not. Okay. How much is it missing?
I don't know. That's not our. I don't know the distance. No, it's not 200 feet.
From the end of the, probably 3 or more, but it's a long way to 4.
Could you identify yourself, please? Yeah.
I don't know if the city knows exactly how much.
Jason
is left.
Hermosa with TxDOT. It's about over 300, but yeah, Anna would know this project a lot more than I would. But there's a large stretch between Beltway intersection to the actual Beltway existing, correct?
Yes, but who is building that?
No, it's not on our project.
That's why.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, maybe, you know, we can talk to Mr. Van Steenberg, see what their plans are, and maybe they can expedite their portion of it and get, because, like I say, Rutherford's not even developed yet.
Yeah.
So,
think we need a
I'd rather have the full section on the south, and I'll defer to the councilwoman, but it just seems like that would be a better deal. And then as Rutherford comes on and we find the additional monies, we do the north section.
We have been approached by developers already wanting the access onto Achar Ruthinger roadway, but none of it has been on Achar. It's mostly been on the Ruthinger portion of the project, as you approach to I-35.
Yeah.
So that's why our intent was to try to complete the entire corridor, to find a way to build the entire corridor.
Well, Mayor, if I can,
Yes, ma'am.
I think the concern in speaking was that they need some kind of action plan so that they can create the schematics so that they can stay with the letting date. And if we delay it, making a decision on which option, it's going to delay the letting date because they need to finalize which one of these options
How much
are
of
they
a
going to
window do
move
we
forward
have
with.
now to make that decision? Is it going to be today?
I don't know at what point you would want to have. I would say the sooner the better.
I think we need some better maps because we need to see what portion, like I say, I don't know, from Beltway north, how far is it?
We can have a special meeting. if
Well,
you wish.
So either way, like all of these options are not really what we had originally planned with the original plan, right? So we're still modifying, but The one that they're preferring is option 3A, which is kind of like the same thing, except what exactly is the difference between what we originally wanted and the preferred option?
Only building bridges on one side.
And we only have
and
one
the
lane in each
roadway's
direction.
reduced.
Yeah.
So why
That's
not?
the only thing. Instead of having 2 lanes and 2 lanes, it's going to be 1 lane and 1 lane. And when you get to a bridge, instead of being able to cross 2 bridges in each direction, you're going to merge and you're crossing 2-way over 1 bridge. So the entire corridor is covered, from Mines Road to I-35.
Well,
Your roadway, your roads are being built at the location where if you were to build access to the roadway, it's ultimately in the place that it's going to be. We're not going to change any of that. In the areas of the bridges, where we're transitioning, you would not have been able to access the property or the roadway anyway because of the bridge itself. So this allows for everything to kind of fall in the ultimate location, and eventually we would build 1 more lane in, and then eventually we would build the main lanes.
Because if your entrance is right by the bridge, on the opposite side that's not being built, you still have to build a driveway.
Yes, but there's a distance, so it's not as much, and we still have to look at where we're proposing future ramps for the main lanes, and those areas would also be restricted.
Let me ask a question. Do we have the $88 million anywhere that we can get them till we could just say move forward with the original plans? And then do we have the 40 million for the preferred? I mean, because
The last page on your presentation shows the options and the amounts that are required.
the very last page.
This last option was the preferred option that we're showing here, and the only difference from what we just discussed is that we're kind of narrowing down our intersections a little bit to where we only build what's shown on the screen. And we don't have to build the turnarounds or anything. That allows us to.
That really concerns me, and again, I'll defer to the councilwoman because she's going to take the complaints. But that means it's going to be constant construction on those lanes
Yes.
for 5, 6, 8 years.
And it's going to be like
Because
the
you're going to
same
go back and you're
complaints.
going to go 1 lane, then you got to make it 2 lanes, right? When you find the rest of the money. And so you're going to be blocking off, you're going to be having all kinds of issues. That's, I would like to see a cost estimate to Beltway. I guarantee you we could get with Mr. Van Steenberg. Hopefully they'll be cooperative, finish that section to connect to whatever you build. And if we have the monies to get to there.
Okay.
So that,
Our plan also is, well, if you think about what you would be constructing later on, would be just the inside lane.
So again, do we have, I mean, is there a way for us to find this $88 million difference? Do we have it anywhere that we need to allocate? I thought you said we had like 50 that needs to be allocated.
So in category $7, you have, after those 1 million that were programmed, you would have 52.9 million available through 2032. But that would be tying all our CAT $7 through 2032. We're not going to be able to leverage any other projects. That's going to be it. If we use those, and we would still have that other gap.
But we need to get this project done.
But I know,
we need to
and
do
speaking
it.
with Roberto, I mean, there's some other options maybe, but right now at the moment, I think it can be opened up to other categories, right? Because it's still not TxDOT on system at this time.
Correct. The Roberto Rodriguez with TxDOT. The only options right now that we have will be category 7, of course, those remaining funds that we can request to accelerate. Doesn't mean it will get approved. We can request to accelerate some of those funds to see if we can use them. We could try to qualify for category 12, which is the commission discretionary funds. However, we may run into the risk that they may say, well, we'll give you the category 12, but it's going to have to move 4 years down the road, the project, because we cannot bring any new funds within the next 4 years. Usually right now, our category 2 and 4 and 12, which are mobility, that cap per year. So if they say, well, when I give a category 12, they may push the project to year 5 now, which will be 24, 27, 28. And if we want to still live it in 23 and find that category 12, that means that another district somewhere else will have to move a project, category 12 project, outside of that year. So we cannot increase that funding. Now, if we bring it on system, we can see we can qualify for category 2 and category 4. but it will not be as much as $80 million or $40 million.
Why isn't it on system?
Sorry?
You all took this project over years ago.
We took over the PS&E development of the project, but it's still not a non-system roadway yet.
So what does it take to get it on system?
We need to get the resolution from the city. What they're going to be, once they acquire the right of way, the city, they'll transfer this right of way for.
Don't you already have that? Didn't we already do
No,
that?
they're working on the right of way acquisition.
That's in the phase
I know of Rio.
No, it's in the process still. They're working on, and they will take it over. And at the same resolution, we need to turn back the highways as we had agreed. You know, the 3 highways. Then it has to go to minor order to the commissioners for approval. To the state commissioners.
Okay, how long is that going to take, Mayor?
What's that, the transfer title?
Wait, yeah.
I think it's, Ria, I think you can speak to that. Or Ramon, I don't know if Ramon's here.
Good evening, Mayor. I think we are waiting for TechStart because they need to finish the environmental before we acquire the right-of-way. We can't acquire the right-of-way until they finish the environmental, so it's like...
Well, we were told that the environmental would be done in March, is what I thought
No, we had,
last decided.
they told us it was done already here
Yeah.
one day.
We had been asking for updates, and they had said March.
The environmental? Yeah, the environmental was complete. What we gave the city was actually the right-of-way footprint, so they can start acquiring and coordinating the right-of-way. Now, to develop the final right-of-way plans, since the city is responsible for the right-of-way acquisition and utility coordination, we just have to make sure that we're not going to have any utility commitments made so that we can put on the final plats, before we do our final development. Now, as far as environmental, we are ready with that.
Okay, so you're ready for us to transfer, for us to transfer title to TechStop?
To start the acquisition, and I think city engineer.
Mayor, I would like a detailed checklist.
We have
Because
our consultant working on the final meets and bounds, which is the actual information they need to formally acquire the right of way. We provided the footprint so that the city can begin their preliminary discussions with the property owners, and we also had already started discussions with them. So our final right of way mapping and meets and bounds will be provided mid-December. At that,
Well, they're not going to do anything till mid-December.
well, they can begin all the discussions because they already have the drawings and the
But I'm just saying,
details.
there's not going to be anything turned over until mid-December.
You can't have actual acquisition of right-of-way until at least mid-December, correct?
Well, that's not in line with the timelines that we've been talking about, because I remember Tito specifically said environmental studies would be done by March, and the right-of-way would happen soon thereafter.
This is not the way I recall anything going down here.
That's why I mentioned what I mentioned earlier, Mr. Gonzalez. I go back to what I started with. I know this is your first meeting, but all along we were being led, and that's how we feel now, being led to how everything was in order, everything was dandy, everything was great, everything was in timeline-wise, and we kept focusing on August and yes, and the bridges, those 6 bridges that you were talking about, we even asked about that. No, it's fine. It's going to be within budget. We even asked about those bridges. That's why, and I'm sorry to say it because you're here now, but you saying it up here and showing those numbers, it upsets us, or it upsets me, because we were asking every meeting through every update that we have for the past year, and here we are hearing otherwise. And it's upsetting.
Yeah, as far as the project development, we are on track, for letting the only
We are
issue we
where
have
we
right
are.
now is the.
Okay, that's why I'm asking for a detailed list of what's going to go first. We need meets and bounds before anything can be done. Okay, what's coming after that? The city has to turn over the right-of-way to TechStop. What's going to come next?
The city is right now procuring for a utility consultant to be able to do the utility adjustments. That's part of what needs to be done also.
Okay,
So they'll be doing that
let's
once they have the right of way.
Can we have a checklist? Can we all get together? I mean, city planner, whoever needs to be, and if you need us doing anything, I mean, we got Anthony, we got LPG. What do we need to do and knock this thing out and say, here it is, and here's expected timelines. We're not going to hold you to those timelines. We know things can change. I mean, because we're dealing with a third party also on the land, right? So,
Yes.
and they're dealing with multiple third parties. I know there was an issue. I think hopefully everything has been resolved as far as that. I think they ought to be happy that there's no more detention ponds because that's going to release some of the land that they thought was going to be condemned, I guess, or otherwise be donated, above and beyond the right of way.
Commissioner, I understand, definitely I understand you all's frustration, right? I mean, it does seem like there's obviously some opportunities that we could have communicated a little bit better. But I think, again, if you look at the presentation that was made, I mean, a lot of the things that were, done in the past, I think kind of brought us
We're
to
okay
this
with
point.
that. Look,
It is what it is.
it is what it is. From here, let's move forward.
Correct, and I agree, having that timeline with I guess, expected, completion dates, I think that will certainly help.
Also to funds, ultimately, yeah, this is fine, but where's the money? What plan do we have to acquire?
We need to get that thing on system so we can look for additional funds, right?
We need to know which option, if we're going to use one of these options, because we have a consultant that's developing the PSNE that has
Again,
the same time.
I don't care for any of those three right now. I'd like to see the fourth option,
Which is?
again, being built to Beltway.
Okay, my concern with building to Beltway is that we're also building the plan for I-35 to build the HR interchange that's going to go, the upgrade of the Uniroyal interchange and the HR interchange that's going to connect to this project.
Yes.
Or that project will be phased so that the HR interchange comes first, so that you can use this HR road, be able to cross over as part of your traffic control while you're constructing your
You can't cross
Uniroyal.
over.
Huh?
You can't cross over.
We're building the HR interchange first as part of that
How
project.
long is the HR?
So that we can
I
use
understand.
that.
How long is the HR interchange going to be done?
I don't have an estimate as to the time frame on that yet, but we would need to be able to reach all the way over there. If not, you would not have that
Well, that's a
traffic control purposes.
That's a separate project.
Yes.
Yeah, but we can't-
But we're
That's-
using
but
a char Ruthinger to alleviate the traffic from Uniroyal when we start working at Uniroyal.
But keep in mind, we can't interrupt it. That's a huge project in itself. We need that.
Well, exactly, that's what we're saying. That one's a separate project that we're going
But I'm saying if we only go to Beltway and then try to cross over, you're crossing over into construction. That's what
Well,
you're
Mayor, can I make a comment? And I know that Mr. Mendiva said that we've got like 50 million that we haven't programmed from Category 7. That would cover the preferred option. It's not the best. I mean, it's not ideal, but I think we can.
It's not today money. How do you do
That's
it?
what I was going to ask, by all means, but how far out are those 50 million available?
Well,
28, 29?
Yeah, it's about 8 million a year through 2032.
I mean, can we wait that long?
And I mean, I know that.
No, but I think they advance it
Well,
for us.
they'll advance it?
Yeah, and
They'll
actually,
advance it, I think.
the Commissioner Bug, if you remember the RMA, the previous meetings, they mentioned that they were allowed to accelerate Cat 7.
Right.
So what we had to do is ask them, can we use this Cat 7 funds from the future, can we bring them over?
How come now we're learning about accelerating Cat 7 and then when we were trying to do all the overpasses on the loop?
It wasn't allowed back.
Oh, okay.
Right.
well, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accelerate the Cat 7 dollars so that we can cover the preferred option, which would be 40 million, a little more than 40 million, so we can get this project
And I would
lettered
second
on
that.
time.
But I would only go along with that if we can use them as a placeholder to find, because my fear is TxDOT's going to say, well, you got Cat 7, you're going to use Cat 7, you don't really need our money. Right? And they're going to say, and we're going to be out of money for.
Well, we're still going to have to extend it. It's still going to.
No, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's going to be no desire for TxDOT.
let's start here. I think it's a good start. And then who knows what time we'll bring.
Well, that would give us the option to get money from other places, and then
Well, that's what
maybe
I'm
we
just
can
saying. They may
reallocate them
not
back.
give it to you if you've already spent it. I mean, if you've already allocated it.
Well,
That's what I'm afraid of.
I think we can do what we need to do as far as like talking to representatives and things to let them know that this was just what we had to do to accommodate the inflation and get
Well,
this
is there-
project going, but we're still going to be needing
Is there a
money.
procedure for that? Can we
We
do
just
it,
have
as Anthony says, as a placeholder until we find other money? Or are they going to say, well, you got it, you don't need other money?
But that's different because this project's already on your tip and your step. It's already programmed. It's already a project. So it's on the books. That's
Will they
different.
consider it a placeholder then until can we still find other money?
You can still find other money, but by allocating all your CAT $7 to that, it doesn't make a difference. And looking for
If anything, they might see that we don't have any money and say, well, we need to give them more money.
If we don't allocate the Cat 7 funds, they'll see it that way. So what if,
Since they're allocated, it's going to be like, look, they've allocated all their money and they're still not able to.
Is there a risk if we can't find the money that it'll get off the tip?
Well, once you start changing those letting dates, right now the current tip years are 23 to 26. If we're going to change the letting years, it would fall off the tip. Every time there's a funding change, I need to make those amendments on the tip. So that's what we do.
we've got
Mayor, let me
If
ask
that
this.
changes, then it falls off the tip.
Let me ask this, Neva, and
Yes.
by all means, I want to support you, and I'm going to support you. But let's see how well can we do this motion right now? Right now, we're saying the letting day is sticking. I see it as far-fetched, but you guys are the pros here. You're saying it's sticking to August letting of 2020.
We're moving forward. That's what our consultant is so critical for them to know.
So
which
if
direction.
we, right now, we approve option 3, for example, but not mess with the funding to get it in, what is in December? So we can get it on?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, the acquisition, yes. Once you tell us, and Ramon, I think you're here, Ramon? Yeah. Now, how quickly can we get the acquisition to text of the right-of-way?
So right now, we're advertising to get a consultant for the utility relocations. We'll probably bring that recommendation probably in February. So that's what TxDOT is requesting that we have in order to have the final footprint.
But when do you think you will get the property?
Once we get the final alignment from TxDOT.
You have the final alignment, you already have the footprint. What we'll be providing you will be the meets and bounds in December.
Okay.
So you'll have everything that you need.
Well,
to
that's the
begin
final
acquiring-
alignment.
To begin acquiring the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Before you can transfer the right-of-way over, you will need to have made your arrangements on how all the utilities will be addressed.
Do we have the funding for the utilities, city?
They're already preparing for their consultant to be able to do that. I don't know if they have the
Do we
funding to
know,
be able to.
do we know how much that's going to cost you guys?
No, not until we get those actual,
But that won't be a barrier for the city, or maybe.
will that be better for the right-of-way footprint?
I'm saying the funding.
He's for
I'm saying the
asking for
funding.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying the funding for that.
I'd have to look into that.
Because here we go, I mean, we're anticipating there's no issues, but if we decide not to allocate Cat 7 because we want to make sure everything's in order, and then we miss an opportunity, well, that's what we're asking.
Well, who can this?
You still have me confused on meets and bounds.
Yeah, but I guess either we...
I mean, you have a lawyer right here that tells you in real estate, how do you transfer anything without meets and bounds?
No, we'll have the meets and bounds.
But I'm saying he can't do anything until he has meets and bounds.
Yes, he can't do anything with respect to the right-of-way, the property itself, until he has the meets and bounds, and those will be...
Except for access.
Yes, will be...
So right then after December, once we get the final meets and bounds, I mean,
Well, I was told that once the environmental was done, that we already had the landowners on board. I was, from what I understood, we didn't have an issue dealing with the landowners.
No, but you do need the meets and bounds. They have to have the actual survey.
So do
right,
we
in
have
order
the money
to,
for that?
Yeah, so that's a question
It's a donation.
for management.
Rhea?
For us to move forward on this survey, whatever we're doing, we have we allocated monies to the city proper allocated monies
I mean,
on our
it
end?
is always the landowner intention is to donate the right of way.
No, utilities.
Now, we are not putting any utilities.
Yes.
When the plat's coming in, then water sewer will go in with the plat.
No, utility adjustments,
Oh,
utilities that are in conflict with the project. Those.
Yeah, that will be part of the construction cost.
Yeah, but we're covered. I mean,
No,
we have
sir.
those funds.
That's a responsibility of the city according to the AFA, that you will adjust all utilities.
What
prior to-
utilities?
Yeah, but we are not ready for construction yet, that's what I'm saying. So we don't know how much we could be talking about. There is probably gas line, other than gas line, there is probably more.
You're procuring for a consultant to already begin that research. They're going to start
That's what I'm
based on the
saying. We don't
plan
know
set.
how much it
So
is.
We did in a preliminary utility engineering study. We actually found out there's 3 major high voltage crossings. We actually modify our design to be able to mill the clearance. We saw, hey, there's an issue here with the clearance on these lines. We're not going to relocate them because it's going to be $2-3 million per location. So we went ahead and adjusted our roadway, make changes to our design. And the consultant that is doing the PSNE actually been looking at those closely and say we're going to minimize the impacts. Luckily, we don't anticipate any major gas pipelines. There was one actually connecting them closer to 1472 if we were going to do the interchange. And but apparently that's an abandoned line that was crossing into Mexico. So we already did some preliminary utility.
And so I think the question was to Ria is, does the city have their funds for any relocations that would be required of you? I know you don't know what it costs, but
I
you have
know,
a funding source.
yes, sir. I know we do have, because we're transferring the property to TechStar, we do have $4.2 million for HR project. So we do have that money
Is that going to be enough?
for the utility relocation.
So if, with everything, with TechStop giving their paperwork in December, we'll be able to still meet that letting date if we allocate these monies. The city, it's not going to be a holdup on the city side or anything?
Only hold up, I say, it takes time for land transfer because it has to. So as soon as we get meets and bounds, we'll sit down with the landowner. They are still willing to donate, but they have to say both of them are trust, so they have to go through all their hoops. So it's not.
Can we start that process now with anticipation of the final?
So we've been having meetings with them. They've been in communications with TechStop. They've been in communications with the city. We've showed them the schematic already. They already have that information, both owners. So it's not going to be anything new to them. We've already been working with them. When Ana was mentioning earlier about the drainage and the ponds, they were excited that they're not going to have to give additional land, and they're going to be able to develop that. So all those things have already, those discussions have been held already with them.
Okay, good.
And our real estate division has also been in contact with it. It's something that they have on their agenda. Every time I meet with real estate, we try to provide updates and all that, but that's work in progress.
Any consultants needed added to that timeline said you should have this consultant by this time in there, whether it's the city, the county, or I don't care who. Can we add that to the timeline?
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
The detailed timeline that we're on a checklist, I'm sorry. Checklist that we're asking for.
Basically everything to get this project to the fund that it needs to be.
Now, can I ask Anthony? Anthony, can you come up, please?
Can I move this?
Huh?
We get this.
Don't touch it. Anthony, I just want to know your thoughts on this funding mechanism, because I'm just very wary about allocating this money at this point. I'm not saying we're not going to allocate it, and if we have to, we have to. But I'm just saying, and I don't know how TechStop works, but I just say, oh, well, they say, well, you got $52 million and you're willing to use it. Why should TechStop, the commissioners over there vote to give us 40 or 20 or whatever, when they say, you already got it and you're going to use it? Is there another way?
I think that looking at it from two ways, from a project development schedule, you need your critical path schedule, because there's a lot of things that run concurrently that need to happen to meet that August date. It's utilities, both compensable and permitted. It's all of these things, right-of-way acquisition that the city's going to be doing. You have to make offers. The right-of-way has to be transferred to the name of the state. There's separate processes about whether there's projects that I've worked on with the FAR district where they've been let by TxDOT as on-system projects, and they were originally local projects. There's projects that the local governments have let, and the minute that they're finished, they become on-system projects. There's different ways to skin the cat. To answer your question, I think that asking the question of whether or not we have the capability to get the money somewhere else will not substantively create a massive delay. I think we've waited on this project for many years, and this is my personal opinion, that some people like and some people don't, is 3 months, the UTP, the new UTP is coming up. I mean, I would risk my own dime to find out if I could get $40 million, because I like 3A modified, the option she presented. I think it's great, because for you guys, either way it happens, it's going to be an on-system project, and whatever happens after it's built, any expansions are going to be 100% on TxDOT, which the easiest way to finish this project, and that's the beauty of a project like this, and it's the same concept for the Southern Loop, is what are the biggest things we're talking about? Right-of-way, utilities, all this stuff. Well, you're going to have a footprint for an expressway that has no utility issues and no right-of-way issues. So it tees up for the Laredo area a huge win to get more money in the future.
So you agree with the three?
I agree with the 3A modified. For me, I liked it. And the second question is, I would wait a couple months for the development of the 2024 UTP process.
What is the drop dead final date that we can allocate this money? And I wouldn't allocate it before.
And for me, I think that if we were to make the decision today, and Mr. Mendez will answer this, you don't get a formal, because they're not doing out-of-cycle tip amendments right now. So you can't have the formal amendment until, what, February?
February, and right now we're already running against a timeline.
Right.
So it'd probably be the one after February.
So even
May.
then, with the change, it's not going to go into effect. So making the decision today versus asking.
Well, I'm just saying, we'll make the decision today on which.
But what I'm saying is,
but not the funding. Is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that you don't have to make the decision today, but you can ask the question, and it's not going to hurt the timeline of whether or not the project gets money, because we're already falling into the next cycle.
So UTP would be.
You concur with
it's already going on. TxDOT has to put their project priority request in, what, December 2nd?
To tap into UTP funds.
So, yeah, to tap into if they'll give it to us. And then we'll come back here and say, hey, there's only UTP money at the end of the UTP. Do we want to delay the project?
Well, hold on. So Tito Gonzalez got moved and promoted to what?
TPP.
He's the guy we need to start calling and asking for
He has
money.
input in this, right?
Yes.
And he had input since the beginning. So I'm going to put Tito on the spot. I'm pretty sure he's listening. Tito, we need your help now.
Well, the question I have is, if we allocate the monies like we said today, but we do get awarded more money, would we still be able to get awarded for this project and then put those monies back in the Cat 7 category to allocate somewhere else?
The great answer to that is I've never, ever, ever seen from a planning perspective where something is funded and then you take local money off so TxDOT can put money on.
Yeah,
you have to show a whole and say, and where you have the leverage to answer the question is, I've got 52 and it's from here. I need another 40. I already gave you 52 for a road that's gonna be yours, TxDOT. Come up with less than 50 cents on the dollar. Here you go. You know, even just that on all the projects I've worked on, I've seen a ratio of 10% Cat 7 to TxDOT money. And those are huge projects, but also, I mean, this is something that I think is, for that amount of money with the size of MPO and the amount of Cat 7 you do, it's very prudent to just ask the question, and I don't think it's going to kill the project, the timeline. And I don't think anybody should slow down on how fast they're trying to get the right-of-way in place or adjust utilities or do anything else or design. I think you guys should pick the option you like to keep TxDOT working. And like I said, I like 3A. They need to keep working, and everybody needs to keep working to keep everything having to do with project development on track so we don't slow it down, because we could be here in a month getting a no, or it'll be a little bit more than a month, you know, in 2 months, and if we get a no, well, it's back to planning and you guys make the decision. But I mean, the only thing that I think is in the critical path is picking an option that you guys like.
It kind of makes sense to me, but I think that the lessons that I learned through Vallecillo is that, you know, for example, that overpass, they're saying, yeah, we'll help you, but we're taking it out of Category 7, and I suspect that that's, we're going to end up in the same situation. It says, yeah, we'll advance the money to you, but we'll...
And that's the shift that's happened at TxDOT, is they want locals to pay for development on projects like that. They want, and it started in April.
Different, Vallecillo.
Well, Vallecillo's different approach, but they've got some commission money and some.
It's offline, yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we move forward with the option 3A, but we hold off on the funding source. But is that acceptable? Would you all still continue to work on it or do you need to wait until?
TxDOT's going to, as far as I know, and they're going to continue to work.
So we're going to continue to work. Again, we need that answer so that we can communicate that to our consultant, right? So we're going to continue to work on that. And you all heard, right? There's a lot of responsibility also on the city for the actual right-of-way acquisition, the utilities. So a lot of things need to happen, right? So we really need to make that decision so that we can.
Well, I don't think it's an issue. I think all the issues have been resolved with the right-of-way, but it's just a matter of the formal paperwork. So it's a matter of meets and bounds. It's not like, we're going to condemnation or anything. They've already, anticipated this. They've had it prepared. They've worked out all their internal stuff that they had. but they just need actual meets and bounds, because you got developers out there, they're blowing and going, and, they want to know, am I losing 10 acres? Am I losing 6 acres?
Well, and again, usually, I think with the information that's already been provided, there's things that they, that can be done, preliminarily. And then, obviously, once we have the final meets and bounds, then things can kind of get buttoned up. But at the end of the day, obviously, we feel this is a very important project. And, the other thing that I guess we didn't really talk a little or as much about was basically that turn back of some of the roads, right, that had already previously been agreed upon. That's something, we need to prepare that minute order that needs to get through our commission. So there's a process also in place for that to happen, right? So that also needs to be taken into account in that timeline.
Yeah, but we're hearing that's not till February.
So there's the updates on this project should get a lot more exciting in the next 3 months. That's what I'm reading into this.
So when do you personally, when do you think we would have to make that decision? January?
I think January. To hit the next cycle, start in January?
On the funding, yeah. Be probably January. So like right now, we do have some tip amendment items to open the comment period and then come back in December for final action. So I can submit that in February.
60 days to look for money?
January, February would be the latest.
Hope Santa Claus shows up.
I'll send you guys and I'll send it to everybody, that there's the text. I did a really good presentation on the.
So, council member, you have the motion, and by all means, I want to support you. I think we want to support you. This is a long overdue project, but I think if there's hopes with text on bringing us more monies, and we can use Cat 7 for other local projects.
Right.
Or even if we have to use a portion of it.
But we're ready regardless. And if we have to step in at the last minute, as Mr. Mendiva and Anthony are saying, and say Cat 7.
So then I think the motion, I'll modify it to say, that we're going to move forward with option 3A.
3A modified.
3A modified, and then for us to check to see if we could advance the Cat 7 monies in case we need to for this amount, but then also put it on the request for funding for the missing amount on the UTP. And get all of those things in line, get everything in line, and then make the final funding decision once we know how much money we're getting. But put all of those cards in play, and then at the last minute, if we have to, then I guess we'll put the Cat $7.
And keep the letting date.
And keep the letting date.
But no, the letting date, if we're going to request for funds, the letting date is going to have to move. Because the August 23 we are in the August 23, fiscal year 23. So if we request any funds, they have to come out of the 24 UTP. So then it needs to move at least a month from August to September.
So best case scenario, we lose 30 days.
Let's just say.
That's understandable.
It's worth the gamble.
Fiscal year 23.
That's my modified motion.
Okay, and as amended, I would also amend, call for the question.
We okay with the 30 days, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
It's
so
worth the risk to see if we can get it.
Correct.
call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None seen, none heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Going back to,
Mayor, do we have a quorum if I step out?
let's see, 4, I guess.
As per our bylaws, quorum is 4.
Okay.
And I'm gonna leave too. Let me go the rest of my
That's fine, thank you.
I pushed my appointment already twice.
Let's
We
see.
still have a few items.
I'll walk out when he comes back.
Yeah, we have a quorum, so we continue. That's the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on October the 19th, 2022. Which says,
Motion to approve?
a motion and seconded by Gonzalez. See? Okay. Discussion, none heard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None seen, none heard. Motion carries. Thank you. Receive public, that's B now, 4B. Receive public testimony and initiate a 10-day public review and comment period for the following proposed amendments to the 2023-2026 Transportation Improvement Program, otherwise known as the TIP. And it's got one item there. So
I'll make a motion to initiate or open the 10-day public review hearing
okay,
and comment period.
And seconded by me. Discussion? Go ahead.
You need to ask if anybody speak for or against also on this item.
Oh, yeah, okay. So anyone, being that it's a public hearing, anyone wishing to speak for or against? For or against? None seen, approaching. I assume there's no one here on that. Yeah, so
Give a
call
very
for the
quick
question.
overview.
I'm sorry?
I'll give a very quick overview on the items.
Okay.
As mentioned, for the Transportation Improvement Program, we all know federal law requires that MPOs cooperate with the state and affected transit operators to develop the Transportation Improvement Program for the planning area for a 4-year period. The MPO TIP documents are subsequently combined to form the statewide Transportation Improvement Program, known as the STIP. Again, TxDOT amends the STIP on a quarterly basis. Revisions to the TIP involving major changes require a public review and comment period and formal action by the MPO Policy Committee prior to being added to the STIP. So per our public participation plan, we require a 10-day public review and comment period. So that's why we're presenting this here today. Right away, the proposed TIP amendments are just formalities of actions that have been taken by the Policy Committee already. As you all know, the Policy Committee had programmed the $7,030,287 for Lomas del Sur. So we're adding that project to the TIP for FY 2025. And then we're also removing project CSJ 0922-33181 for the ADA bus stops and bicycle plazas project. The Policy Committee had already taken action on the request by the City of Laredo and El Metro to terminate that advanced funding agreement for that project due to the economic inflation and significant financial challenges that project would face. So those actions had been taken, but we got to formally make those changes on our TIP document.
So you need a motion to,
There's already a motion to open the comment period, and we'll be back at the next meeting.
So just call for the
to
question.
accept those.
Call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Then seeing none, heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to C, review public testimony, initiate a 10-day public review and comment period for the following proposed revisions for the 2020-2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. That's the MTP. And would you explain that?
Yes, the same thing. We'll also need to ask for public testimony here at the meeting, but it's when there's some change to the TIP, it also needs to be made to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The Lomas del Sur project was already in the MTP. We just need to change the project description and the funding details and the letting date on that. And the other project, you don't need to worry about that. We just need to change the Appendix A to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan that has a list of all the projects. That is in your packet, that appendix.
Okay. Is there a motion that we open a public hearing?
so moved.
By Commissioner Galo and seconded by Councilmember Pettis.
And you need to just take the public testimony.
Again, it's a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? For or against? For or against? Seeing that no one's approaching the lectern, I'm assuming that there's no one on that point. So call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None seen, none heard. Motion carries. The next is a discussion of possible action on the selection of a representative to fill the Policy Committee member at large vacancy.
Who was there?
Tito was there. I know I've got Jed Brown is a candidate that has expressed interest in serving that capacity. I've gotten letters, I don't know about you all too, from Senator Safirini and Representative Raymond, also very much in favor of Mr. Brown's selection. Would you want to give us a little?
You say he has no interest? Or
No, he has interest.
Oh, interest.
He has interest but he's also the chair of the.
The chair of the RMA, I would think that's.
So as in the bylaws, it does state that the member at large is appointed by the Policy Committee. There's no process to that. It just mentions that the Policy Committee can appoint someone to that at large seat. I know Jed Brown requested, I think he reached out to the mayor and he asked if he'd be considered. We do have some letters of recommendation that were provided. We wanted to introduce those into the record. We'll put them up there on the Elmo. As mentioned by Chair Sines, there's a letter of recommendation from Congressman Cuellar. There's a letter of recommendation from State Senator Judith Zaffarini, as well as a recommendation from Richard Raymond. Just for clarification, State Senator Zaffarini and Representative Raymond are ex officio members of the MPO Policy Committee. I know there's a question about the Army. This is up to the Policy Committee's discretion.
How many people? This is for the technical committee?
No, this is for the MPO Policy Committee to take the,
up here.
to take the seat that was vacated by Tito. I know you asked her now about RMA serving. There are other MPOs where they have RMA members serve on their committee. Usually it's a special seat for the RMA. In this case, I think it's appointing Mr. Brown as an individual.
I'll make the motion to appoint Mr. Brown for that.
Okay, and I would second that, and the reason being too is that Mr. Brown, as we know, is very well connected to the governor's office, and especially we're seeking funds in the nature that we discussed earlier, and aside from the governor's office, I think, he's proven well his ability to work with both the county and the city, and with TxDOT, obviously.
So would it be, what's the word? Not connected to his term as chairman? Because his term.
Generally not. I asked the same question.
Yeah, so.
It's like Depot, he was with TxDOT and he was the at-large.
This seat-
TxDOT
But he
only has
moved out
one
of
seat.
town.
This seat
Still
is
could
an
have
at-large.
served, but he's not here.
Right.
So I'm saying if Mr. Brown would serve even though if he was no longer chairman.
Yes, you would, because it's an at-large seat.
Yeah, I'm saying
and it's a
it would
two-year.
not be subject to his chairmanship.
It's a 2-year term that can continue. They can be reappointed, but it's an at-large seat, so it's not tied to the RMA.
Okay,
Okay, and,
just so it's clear.
no, that's fine, thank you.
Call for the
So
question,
call for the
Mayor.
question. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? TxDOT, do you feel okay with it too? Okay. Yeah, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Brown, if you're watching, congratulations.
Or zipping.
We'll put you to work.
Yeah.
We'll embarrass you as well.
Now he has to come to every meeting.
Char Ruthinger.
And he gets to,
Okay.
no, now what happens? I should have asked this question first. Now he's gonna go vote and there's something for the RMA.
Yeah, he may have to recuse himself.
Yeah, it would be. It's like we have city elected officials, county elected officials here sometimes,
Okay.
and depending on the issue.
We'll check into that. You may raise, and it's a good point, to be honest with you, but when we get to it, I guess we'll figure something
Figure it
out.
out.
RMA's function, I mean, is to serve, right? It's a nonprofit, right? It's
No, I mean, they came and they, for money and things like that, and so if you don't wanna give them Cat 7 and they want Cat 7, and I'm just saying,
Yeah, what's the point?
Well, he can't, I don't think he can we clarify on whether or not he can motion for things that affect the RMA?
I mean, that would be based on that conflict of interest on our ethics policy and stuff. I don't know if that's actually a motion that you can make, but I mean, it would be understood right through
Right.
our ethics.
I would say when the time
through
comes, we can raise that issue, and
too
then
late now, we already pointed it.
And I believe through the Open Meetings Act as well.
Unless we take it back.
we'll get status report by the RMA.
No, we want Mr. Brown.
Is that what the-
I apologize, Mayor Brown had a conflict out of state today on a business retreat. But I think you all have our updates, our project summaries. I'm here to answer any questions if you have anything to ask regarding our project summaries.
I don't.
Help us get money for Char Ruthinger, please.
We'll support as we can, Councilwoman.
Anything else? Do we have any other business? And if not, I want to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Director's comments,
we
Mayor?
need
I think
director.
we had.
Yeah, we took them at the beginning of the meeting.
I do want to ask though, if I may, what can TxDOT do to help us at the checkpoint, at the 28-mile marker? You all have 2 small signs almost at the checkpoint that say trucks use right lane, cars use left lane, and then I believe it's on the pavement. But by the time you see those signs, it's too late. The trucks have already infiltrated the left lane.
Right.
They stop all passenger vehicles, and then they fight to get back into the right lane. So can we put additional signage farther back to say trucks must use right lane? The sheriff can enforce it, but they have to have some notice, because by the time they see the signage, there's no way to get over.
That's something we can definitely look into, and,
I know it is a black and white sign, and they say it's enforceable, but it must, like I say, you have to give the trucks. It needs to be 1 or 2 miles back.
Do you want to put an agenda item for next time?
Well, I'm just asking TxDOT, because I think they can do it on their own. They don't need us.
yeah, we can certainly look into that, Commissioner.
And like the sheriff has tried to enforce it, but again, he can't enforce it until they've seen the sign, and the sign is right there. So they say, well, too late now.
The queue basically backs up beyond the sign.
Yeah, way past the sign. It backs up for miles,
Okay.
and it's all because the trucks do not let the cars through.
Motion to adjourn.
And seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Seeing none, heard, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This
Happy
meeting is adjourned.
Thanksgiving.